Welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Avrum, beautiful beginning, like beautiful intro.
It's epic, no?
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to thank my dear friend Isaac Oziel, who is a brilliant man when it comes to IT and the creation of all such things. He's also has a beautiful heart and soul. He's one of those people who's always looking to help others, and I'm very grateful to him for developing this. So you're the first one to see this, Rabbi Gemara.
Thank you.
And of course, my viewers. So listen, welcome to everybody. And it's great to be back. I have with me today, currently one of my favorite guests. Who knows how this will play out in the future. But his his name is Rabbi Shlomo Gemara, and you'll remember him from a few weeks ago when we talked. We spoke about various different things including his teaching, the Talmud, Agnon, of which he is a specialist. Rabbi Gemara is a vice principal at Chat here in Toronto, is one of the biggest Jewish high schools in the world. He's a native of Petach Tikva in Israel, and he served in the parachute unit of Yeshiva Hesder. He's an alumnus of Bar Ilan University, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in mathematics. Rabbi Gemara received his rabbinic ordination and teaching qualifications at Keren B'Yavne Yeshiva. He's lived in Toronto since 1993. And he was a Rosh Yeshiva at Bnei Akiva Schools. That's the head of a Talmud school until 2011. And he says a clear vision of Judaism and Torah is necessary to direct life and have philosophical and religious importance for Medinat Yisrael, the people of Israel, in the process of the Geula, which is where we live, where we are in Messianic history, before Messianism, that we begin to see in our days. So welcome, Rabbi Gemara. How are you?
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the first podcast. Mark Twain once said that he will not agree to learn in a school that accepts him. And I felt the same about the podcast. Like, I'm not going to be interviewed by someone who wants to interview me.
Yes.
But you know what? I got wonderful feedbacks. I actually learned that from your question, I learned a little bit about myself, which I think is why I love to teach, by the way, because your students' questions reveal and help you to learn everything much better. And things that you ignored or you did not pay attention, your students, by their question, will bring you something to think about, and you grow through questions. So thank you for the question. I learned something about myself, as I said.
Listen, I tell you, I do this podcast for a few reasons. The two most important reasons, Rabbi, are I truly want to honor people. I really do. I think we live in a time where people are castigated for who they are. How often do we build somebody up and make them feel beautiful about themselves? And I think there are so many people whom you and I know and don't know that are such marvelous human beings. Like I believe that everybody has a gift inside of them. Some people use it in their lives. Some people use it less. And if I am able through this podcast to help a person see who they are as a human being, then I've achieved my job. That's number one reason why I do it.
You know what, Avrum? I think you just hit something very, very important. I read a lot about the soldiers and the citizens of October the 7th. And you know what? Some stories are like heroes. You can't believe that people like throw themselves on grenade. The people who will under fire will evacuate their friends when they know that the chances that they're going to get hit are very high. And you know what? I always ask myself, number one, I would like to interview their teachers in a high school. Did they see their students as future heroes. And I can tell you what will be the answer. We never even think about it. He was nice, but you don't think about them like the top heroes of the Jewish people. And when I look today on any student, I see inside the potential hero, something that we fail to see on every day when we teach, when we fight with students, sometimes when we disagree. But there is something inside every one of us that at one point might be a hero. And I think it changed my view on every student that I see. For many years, when I enter a class, I remind myself, this is the daughter of Sarah and Rivka and Rachel and Leah. Mm-hmm. And treat her like nicely, or the boy like, he's the son of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Treat him respectfully. They are great people. But it takes extraordinary times like we have now in Israel to see what does that mean to be the son of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's like extraordinary soldiers, male and females. And to me, it's a revelation.
So do you think that there's heroism inside of all of us potentially?
It must be so. It must be so. And more and more, I believe that is the meaning when we say that we are the children, Bnei Israel. Yes. We are Bnei Israel. What does that mean? Like, okay, Israel, Jacob, died thousands of years ago. Why do we still carry his name?
Yes.
The answer is, I believe, because we carry some of his DNA. And that means fighting with angels and fighting with people, going through the hardest times in life and happy times in life, and to stay loyal to who you are. And that's why we are Bnei Israel. And yes, we have to daven that we will never realize how heroes we are. We have to live our life and to enjoy them as much as we can. But I do believe that each one of us potentially can be a hero.
Tell me something. The children that you teach, the young people whom you teach, do they recognize the magic that you bring to the classroom? That's your view? That you're looking at them as children of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov? Like most teachers don't do that. Most teachers are just trying to get through the class. But you have a perception of these young people, which is truly beautiful.
If they know it, I don't want them to know it. I want them to feel it, that they are respected, they have a voice. And I must say, listen, I have a career of 40 years. I say it proudly, but really, I don't think that I ever fought with any student. Even when I came to a conclusion, and I'm sure that some people who are listening to us maybe was kicked by me at this point or another. We kept good relationship.
How did you manage to do that? How did you do that?
Because it doesn't come from clash of power. I'm the teacher, I'm the principal, I'm the Rosh Yeshiva, I will tell you what to do. I just sometimes told them, I think that you are on the wrong bus. If you took the bus to Haifa and you found yourself in a bus to Eilat, I just tell you, you are in the wrong bus.
Yes.
And some people were not born to learn in yeshiva. What can you do about it? They are on the wrong bus. And, when I was in Orchaim, I sent students to chat. Sometimes I told them to go to chat because I thought that it might be better for them. And believe it or not, I just have a year ago, like someone came to me and they said, you know what? I just want one thing. I'm not a salesperson of chat or any other school. I think that your child is going to do better at Ulpana. So I really focus on the success of the student. And I try to be objective and respectful, most of all, to the student himself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went to Ner Yisrael Yeshiva for 5 years. Ner Yisrael Yeshiva is here in Toronto. It's a Talmud school, and it's for young people. I was 13 when I came to Toronto, and I was there till I was 18. And then I went to a Haredi yeshiva in Sanhedrin Mechevet, which is right outside Jerusalem. And my Rosh Yeshiva was Rabbi Friedler, and then Rabbi Uri Meyerfeld, who is still there, or he was my Rebbe. I'm sorry, now he's Rosh Yeshiva. He actually told my father, he said, Rabbi Rosensweig, your son is not made for Ner Yisrael. He's more so in sync with Or Chaim. Now, I don't know. I'm sure Rabbi Meyerfeld won't be listening to this because I asked him, I went to visit him recently. I said, have you ever watched the movie? He said, no. So I'm assuming he's not watching our interview, Rabbi Gemara. But
You never know.
Nah,
Rabbis actually like to hear all kinds of things.
All right, fair enough. I don't think so, but okay. But long and short of it, it's when you meet somebody and you see that they have insight, in particular into you, and you've already read their cover as though, oh, this person couldn't possibly know who I am. It's very refreshing. It's very beautiful.
It is.
I wanna ask you about being a rabbi. Okay.
Okay, but can I stop you for 1 second? I just
Stop me all
want
the
to do
time,
something really, really interesting because we mentioned Israel and what's going on. Today is the birthday of one of the hostages. His name is Shlomo Mansour. He's 86 years old, which is exactly the age of my mother. She should live for 120.
Amen.
And it really touches my heart. You know, a person like this, like 86 years old, is in the tunnels of Gaza. And the family say that what he liked the most is to eat ice cream. Like he loves ice cream.
Yeah.
So there was a Jew in America, I can't remember even who was it, but I got it on my feed, that said, you know what, on Sunday, today, March 17, we are going to remember in a unique way Shlomo Mansour and to eat glida, ice cream, to remember him, just to remember we are the Jewish people. And we celebrate and we mourn. And today we will remember Shlomo. So I actually got glida, ice cream. I'm going to say shehakol and to have him in mind. Say a short tefillah if you're religious. Think about him if you just feel as a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niya bidbaro.
Amen.
And let's hope that in the 87th birthday, we will all eat together.
Amen. Amen. Rabbi, what kind of ice cream are you eating?
This is Baskin Robbins, I believe.
Do you know what the flavor is, though?
It's a cookie dough or something.
Oh, yeah, cookie dough is good.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's really good. Okay, I have a question for you about being a rabbi.
Yes.
Of course, I grew up. My father was a rabbi, Zacharenu Livracha. I should rest in peace. He was a rabbi who always wore his suit and tie, more or less. And I often wondered about my father. When he woke up in the morning, he would have a title of Rabbi Rosensweig, and a very short period of time where he could just be Feivel, right? I remember when I used to wear a kippah, and I was in Kitchener, and I felt as though I was representing the Jewish people all the time, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to be noticed. You know, kids, Rabbi, they just want to be like everybody else, right?
Absolutely.
Are you always a rabbi?
Wow, that's a great question. I try to. I many times wear the suit and the tie, even when people are not around at nighttime. I do feel that I represent an institution. Absolutely, yes. I once heard that Ronald Reagan, when he was in the White House, all the time he wear a jacket and tie. And he said, I'm not Ronald Reagan. I am the president of the United States, and I have respect to this institution. I'm not a tzaddik like Ronald Reagan. Sometimes I go with no suit and tie, but I try to remember it, that the standards of behavior should be different. People look at me, and my tie remind me that I am a rabbi. I have to behave on a higher standard as much as I can.
And you wear tzitzit all the time, right?
Yes.
Does it become onerous at all? When you went to Rome and you were in the heat of the day, do you say, "Oh, these tzitzis are so hot"?
No, I'm very proud to wear them. Sometimes we have a jersey day in school, like, to feel the spirit. And I say I have every day my jersey, and I'm I'm a big fan of the team of 613. So I try to do every mitzvah, and tzitzit is actually quite easy mitzvah to do. You carry it, you get used to it. You feel a little bit protected by all the the good energies there. Yeah.
Rabbi Shlomo Gemara, you seem to be a lucky man because you seem to inherently appreciate ritual. And I've spoken to many religious Jews and asked them, "Do you like ritual?" And as they get older, the answer is more and more, "No, I don't." But you seem to really appreciate ritual. So I would say that you're lucky. You like learning Torah. That's a lucky thing. What about those people who don't feel that?
It's very, very sad. It's very, very sad. And I know people like this. And the reason is that they were not infused in their childhood with real love to Yiddishkeit. And they find themselves in a very difficult situation because in the age of 50 and 60, they have to re-educate themselves. They have to feel the meaning of what they are doing. And it's not easy in this age because you become more skeptic, you become less emotional, less spiritual sometimes. So it's not easy. And you know what? If we will have time, I'll tell you an amazing story of Agnon that I always tell, which has nothing to do with the phenomenon that you are speaking about, but it has a lot to explain this phenomenon, why people feel unsatisfied.
Do you want to tell the story now?
Okay.
Seems apropos.
I did not plan on it, but it's part of a bigger story that is called Vehaya Yaakov Lemishor. Actually, the classic story of Agnon that in the Nobel Prize Award, this story was mentioned. And part of the story, the funny anecdote of a person who is like a captain, a person who collects money for himself and for his family, something that was very common. And one Friday, he arrived to a city like any other Jew. He's going where on Friday? To the mikveh. This was the minhag. Before Shabbos, you go to the mikveh. And he went to. And thank you for putting the picture of Agnon. Actually, he wrote it when he was this age. So
yes.
He published the story in 1912. He was then, I think, in his early 30s. And he came to the mikveh, and the beautiful minhag of the Jewish communities in Europe was that if a person come to town, he would come to the gabbai, and the gabbai is giving him like a tzetel, like a petek, telling him where he's going to have Shabbos meal with what family.
Yes. And
the guy got like on a petek, like Enzel. This was the name of the Jew. What he didn't know that this was the gvir of the town, like the richest person in town. And he goes to the mikveh, and in the mikveh, for obvious reasons, you don't know who is a rich person, who is a poor person. They all look the same.
Yeah.
So everyone who was in a mikveh on Friday will understand this story.
Yeah.
Anyway, this poor Jew comes to the mikveh, and someone, obviously from the Jewish community, comes to him and said, "Where do you eat tonight?" And he said, "I don't know. They gave me this Enzel Schmenzel. And I'm sure that, I'm going to eat nothing there." What happened was that he spoke to Enzel. And he was very, very upset that the guy doesn't know him at all and already decided that he's not going to get eating anything, while his minhag was that, everyone comes and he feed him like a gvir, the best meal in town. Shabbos coming, everyone is like wearing his Shabbos clothes. And again, he didn't recognize that the guy that he was speaking in the mikveh is the rich person. Yeah. Now, this Enzel in the mikveh told him, "Oh, Enzel, wow, this guy, the Kamtzen, is he will not give you anything to eat. Listen,
Comes on as a cheap guy.
the cheapest guy in town. And he said, but I'll tell you one thing. He has the best challahs in town. When he brings the challah to the table, eat challah as much as you can, because afterwards you will get nothing. Yeah. So he comes, and indeed the challahs are big, are smelling, are fantastic. And once the balabait that he didn't recognize now, like gave him a piece of challah, he took one and second and third and fourth. And he was very happy because he knew that now he's not going to get anything. To his surprise, like a big fish, like a salmon, a big one came to the table. And afterwards, like potatoes and meat. He never saw in his life such good food, but he couldn't even eat like one iota of it, nothing. So he got very upset. His eyes are popping out, and he looks on all the wealth and the food that he never saw, and he cannot eat from it. And at the end of the meal, he like screaming, I would like to meet the person that I met in the mikveh. He lied to me, and I missed the entire meal. Agnon finished that Enzel and all his family, who knew the story from before, because he told them, apparently, look how he's going to eat all the bread and he will not be able to eat anything else, are laughing and having good time. This is, by the way, a very cruel story. But, we are not having enough time to discuss this story because they bring it as a joke. But when Agnon bring a joke, it usually has like very sharp teeth. It's talking about social mobility, something that we touched upon last time. But I bring this story to explain what happened to many in our community regarding Talmud and Torah and ritual and things like this. They ate the bread, and they don't have room anymore for the meat and for the real food. They have kind of satisfaction, but the minimal one. But it's enough to not enable them to do more than that, like to learn really Gemara with enthusiasm, to learn Torah with more depth, because they already feel satisfied and they don't like it anymore. They cannot eat anymore. And I see these kind of Jews that are fed with bread and not fed with great food like meat and fish and other things. And that's what happened. They look around when they are 50 and 60 and they say, I don't get really like satisfaction from what I'm doing. And this is something, that every rabbi, every teacher has to take into account. It's not only what you teach, you have to give it like a simcha inside. You have to give some reason, some meaning into what people are doing. And then there is a good chance that, they will like what they do and will continue it.
Rabbi, to continue on the discussion about on being a rabbi, I want to read something to you from Rabbi Jack Moline. He writes a most interesting thing, and I really want to get your take on it. He was a rabbi, a pulpit rabbi. You were never a pulpit rabbi, right?
No, I never wanted, actually.
Why didn't you want it?
Why I didn't want? Because you see me, I think that you already understand. I'm really open to many, many things. And once you are a pulpit rabbi, you have to be not only yourself, but something that the community expect you to be.
Yes.
And I don't want it. These are like, will be shackles on my legs and my hands. And trust me, I would offer quite amazing opportunities, but a good rabbi is a slave, and I say it in the most positive way, to his community. And for all kind of reasons, I maybe was afraid, I didn't want. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I need certain freedom that help me to be who I am.
As a Rosh Yeshiva, you were okay being yourself? Because sometimes you're silly, sometimes you're very funny. You often let your hair down. That's why I enjoy you so much. Were you like that as Rosh Yeshiva?
Yeah, in Orchaim, actually, it was a fantastic place. That's by the way, I love to work with, especially teenagers.
Yes.
They keep you young. They keep you young. You have to see the world in a very different way than, a person 40 and 50 and 60. Listen, today, Baruch Hashem, I'm over 60. And many, many times I still see the world through the eyes of a 17 years old, 18 years old. Baruch Hashem, I'm very happy that I can sometimes to tell them, I think I was there. I think this path will be better for you. But I still can feel the excitement of being a teenager and all the burden that comes with this. And when you are a community rabbi, it's very, very different. It's very different. And listen, I completed all my, I could be like in Israel, a city rabbi. But I didn't see it as part of myself. You understand? Like, to be a rabbi is not a job. It's a mission, and you have to be like 100% with it.
And some people are absolutely brilliant at it. Rabbi Korobkin, who is another friend of mine
Absolutely.
who I've had on the show, and we're going to do a show in a few weeks together, the three of us. He's brilliant rabbi, right?
I completely agree. And you know what? I admire it because sometimes I can see like what rabbis of communities are going through, and I admire them. I don't say that they are slave in a bad way. On the contrary, Rav Kook, every letter that he wrote, he was the first chief rabbi in Israel, said, Eved le'am Hashem al admat Hashem. I'm a slave to the nation of God on the land of God.
Yeah.
And to me, it's very, very noble.
To go back to what I was saying before, there's this fellow, Rabbi Jack Moline. He was a rabbi and then he retired. He says like this. He goes, it's not news that I'm retired for about a year now, and I no longer spend my time during the week wondering what message I will deliver my congregation on Shabbat. Likewise, I no longer lead a congregation in prayer. So I am released from the responsibility to keep them on the same page or offer gentle hints about when to stand, sit, sing, or silence. The first year, more than 40 years that I attended high holiday services as a Jew in the pew, I was astonished and deeply moved by the liturgy in a way that I had never experienced. It moved through me like a river, inspiring and immersing my only audience, me. All of the preparing and explaining I had done for others had come to rest in my very personal experience of prayer and penitence. And I remember thinking, oh, so this is what it was, what is like me, the rabbi. And I thought this is wonderful. And I wanted to ask you, based on this, because you're so often caught up in the pomp and ceremony of being a teacher, of being a rabbi, are you able to experience your own personal spirituality in the way that you want?
Actually, yes. I feel myself, I wouldn't say very spiritual, but there is no day in my life that I don't feel connection to spirituality. If it's just by eating ice cream for another Jew and to say the bracha and to thank Hashem for all the beautiful things that He created around us, which I think is the purpose of all the brachot, like just to connect you. You continue with your life, but you recognize that your life is about something higher than just eating. You meet God by eating ice cream. Isn't it great? It's fantastic. And obviously for tefillot. So listen, I'll be completely honest with you. Some tefillot, like after I take off my tefillin, I said, wait a second. I can't remember that I met God this morning because I was occupied with other thoughts and other things. And I say the Tehillim, I say the Shmona Esrei, but you know what? Sometimes you don't feel connected. And sometimes I know that this is going to be like such a great day because I already talked to God. Like I think that I would like to see Him in my teaching and in the way I deal with other people. So every day is a little bit different. But I'll tell you something that you are not aware of, but is very, very important for you to hear. I'm not about tefillah at all. Unfortunately, my talent is not in singing and things like this. But once I was asked to lead Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, and I always actually wanted to daven Ne'ilah, because I feel that Ne'ilah is like you end the day. Every opportunity that you had is there. That's it. Ne'ilah. You close the door and that's it. And as I told you last time, I, as a believer, I have some difficulties with the issue of the Shoah, of the my grandparent that I never met. And I want to talk to God about it. And Ne'ilah is a tefillah that is talking also about the misery of the Jewish people. What happened to us over the years? And I want to bring my voice to Hashem. You should know that I have questions. You should know that we, the Jewish people, suffered for you. It's time for redemption. And I had an opportunity. The first time that I went to Ne'ilah, I looked around me and my eyes caught Mr. Kleinberg. He passed away about 3 years ago. He was in his late 80s. No, at the time he was in the early 80s. And I told him, Mr. Kleinberg, I want you next to me in Ne'ilah. A guy who went through the Holocaust, lost much of his family, built a beautiful family afterwards. And I felt that this is going to give me inspiration and the ability to stand before God. Here with such an advocate, a Holocaust survivor that never said to Hashem, I don't want to hear about you. On the contrary, build a beautiful family. I want you next to me. And you know what? I felt that I fly to the sky. I can tell you what kind of feeling that every time that I want to know what spirituality for me, I remember my own Tfilat Ne'ilah. Because it's not about me. It's about the connection of the Jewish people with God. And so these are the times that I really feel 100% connected. And I wish that it will continue on to the rest of the year.
Can you define that connection a little bit more? Excuse me. Like, for instance, when you make a bracha, blessing on the glida, on the ice cream, if you're present with God, as you say, or thereabouts, what happens in your head? What's going on in your head?
In my head, I just think about like the beautiful world that we are in. I'm sorry, 1 second.
It's okay.
I think that my battery is going to die. Wait a second. Oops.
It's a chance to look at your library.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened? What was the question? I'm sorry.
I was listening to you make a bracha on the glida, and I'm thinking, what's going on in your head?
Okay, so I really fascinated by the world around us with many things, with human beings like you, with trees and fruits and animals, and many things fascinate me. And I know for sure, like for me, it's not something that I have to think again and again. God is behind it. And normally our thoughts are occupied with something different. But when I have the opportunity to stop for a few seconds and to say the bracha on the ice cream, I thank God for the milk and for the fat and for the sugar and for the wisdom of people to take all these ingredients and to make something great as ice cream. When I go, there is a beautiful bracha. I love it the most. After a person spends some time in the washroom, he goes outside and there is a bracha of Asher Yatzar. We take our body for granted. But you have to go once to a hospital.
Rabbi, I'm sorry to interject. But that Asher Yatzar, Chalulim, basically what you're saying to God is, thank you so much for my intestines. Thank you for making my innards work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because little a thing that is not working properly, how much suffering people have when one little thing is not working properly. Sometimes it may be even fatal. And, you know, I think I got such a great gift, and it requires me 2 3 times a day just to thank God for all of this. I feel really like inspired by it.
I want to get into a discussion about the Talmud shortly. Thank you, by the way, for your response. My sister Chavi, my family. My sister
Of
Chavi, she
course,
loved our interview. And God bless her. She's a tzedekis, my sister. She's a righteous person.
she is.
She said to me, she said, Avram, after Rabbi Gemara gives his answers, sometimes I notice that you'll just go on to another question. And I think it would be much nicer to show him respect and tell him how mesmerized you were by his answer. And I said, Chav, you know what? You're right. That's a really good point. So
Thank you. And while you mention it, you know, the story with Neila, I have to tell you something about your mother because I think that you carry on her legacy. Your mother, Alea Shalom and Chavi, every Yom Kippur, after I came home and like ate something to break the tzom, they were the first one to call me and to give me thank you for the Neila. Now, I really, again, I don't do it for myself, but it's so nice that people who were inspired give you a feedback. And we are very bad at feedback. You know, this is true about our spouse, about our children. And we have to be more positive to the people around us. It will give them a great chizuk.
my
And
mother,
she's right. When people listen, when people called me and say, I saw the interview, I said, I don't believe that you spend like so much time on it. And they say, no, it was interesting. So, you know, my self-perception
My
is
mother,
different.
God bless her soul, when she would read a good article in the newspaper, in the Kitchener Record, or even the Toronto Star, which a lot of Jews do not like, she would literally pick up a phone and call the journalist. Or very often she would write a letter of appreciation. And thank God, all of my sisters and myself, we do that similarly. In other words, if you teach your children Hakarat Tov, to be appreciative of others, they will fall into sync. They will do it too.
You know, this is quite amazing. And I have to say, I learned it from my mom to thank for every person who did something good for us. And I was actually quite surprised. I once went to a restaurant in Toronto. And most likely it happened so few years ago. So most likely it's already closed.
Yes, it
That's a
is. Yes,
minhag
it
here
is.
in Toronto. And at the end, I asked to see the chef. And the owner asked me, why do you need the chef? I said, I want to thank him. So he said to me, like, wow, you know what? That's really nice because most people come, they pay and go home. They said, what do you mean? Like, he tried, he did, I enjoyed his meal.
Very good.
I should
Very
thank
good.
him, no?
Yeshikoch to you.
Yeah.
I want us to get into a discussion about Talmud. We're going to talk about the Talmud and we're going to talk more about Agnon. Before we dive into our schmooze vis-a-vis the Gemara, I put a picture up here behind you, and what it is it's a library of Shai Agnon. And I don't know if people can see these small pictures, these thumbnails very well, but I looked at that picture, and the image that came to mind vis-a-vis you is we have davened together at Mishkan Avrum on Friday night. And I see you walk in. You always walk in a little late, don't you? Are you always late?
Don't tell it to the entire
Yeah,
world,
what's
but
up with
sometimes
that?
I'm late. You know what they say? Moshe Feinstein used to say, you know when is Shabbos? When you start asking when is Shabbos. And I'm like a person. I just follow his
Okay.
instruction. Like I asked my wife, when is Shabbos? She said 5 minutes ago.
Anyways, I see you come in and you daven, you catch up, and then throughout the davening, you're walking around the library that exists at the shul, and you're looking, and sometimes you'll pull a sefer, a book off the shelf, and you'll sit and you'll flip through it. And my thought was, I grew up in a home where my father, God bless his soul, was a bibliophile. We had 10,000 books in Swarm. I remember as being a young kid, 4 or 5 years old, surrounded by the spines of Buber and Shas and the Rambam. There was something that was very, very poignant in our lives. So much of what we did and where we moved was predicated on will the library fit there or not. And I'm thinking to myself, what is your relationship to libraries, and what is it that, like, when you go into someone's home who has a library, do you immediately check through their books?
Yes. And you know what? You hit upon something that goes almost 60 years back. Listen to this, because this is really interesting. I told you,
Thank you.
you have good questions. You
I
bring
like your
memories.
answers too. You have good answers.
I told you that I learned in a school which is called Netzach Israel. Now, this is Petach Tikva. Today, Petach Tikva is big. At my time, it was a walkable city. Like, you could go from one side to another, within 20, 25 minutes. The school was, I would say, 1 block away from the city library of Petach Tikva. And I loved to read books. I think I got it from my mother and my father. We had not a big library, but I always saw them like reading. My mother loved Agnon. And in a very young age, she started to tell me stories of Agnon, which really caused me to want to read it myself. But I was very lucky, because the library, the city library, was next to the school. And the rule was that you can take 1 book a day, and you have to return it to get the other one. And you cannot get more than 1. What happened in grade 6, I went once in the break, I went to the library. And when I stopped reading, it was about 15 minutes after school was over. So I went at 10 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock, I realized that I'm still in the library. And I also realized when I came home that I actually learned this day much more than I would learn in a regular day in school. So guess what? Next day, I was again in the library. And the next day, again in the library. And one day my mother got a phone call, like, "Where is your son?" She said, "What do you mean? He's in school." "No, he's not in school." And she asked me, "Where are you?" And I said, "Ima, I'm learning a lot. I'm in the library." And I read every day like tens of books. I remember, like, a Technai Tzayir, the young technician, it always fascinated me. And I tell my kids many times, I remember that it said, it was like in the 60s, one day the scientists think that there will be a flat TV that you can hang on the wall. This was like, like the future, like the amazing future. No one thought about computers or something like this, but flat TV on the wall was like the top of technology that you can even imagine. So yes, I love books. Most of my education is from books. Absolutely. And Agnon say one time, he said, "You know what? Instead of like going to all kinds of countries, all the countries come to me."
Yes. Yeah.
Books, they come to
So,
you.
Rabbi, again, if you go to somebody's home, will you say, "Would you mind if I look at your library?" And you could
I
tell
always do it.
you could tell a lot about the people by the library, right?
Yeah. Sometimes, because today people listen. Today you cannot judge upon the. You cannot judge a book by its cover, because we have digital books. No one open a book anymore. So yeah, this is very, very sad that but what can you do? The accessibility to books became unbelievable. I'll tell you one little story. The biggest Jewish library was in Vilna, to a person by the name Rav Strashon. Rabbi Strashon actually was a wealthy person. He controlled all the pearl trade in Europe, gave him a lot of money. He was in connection with the Tsar of Russia, the kings of France. But he was a huge Talmid Chochem. And because he had so much money, he could collect lots of money, lots of books. In his library, there were 8,000 books. Now, I send you a link to a Talmud, a digital Talmud, in a library that had at this point more than 80 8,000 books scanned. So think about it. Like Europe, 150 years ago, the greatest Jewish library, 8,000 books. Now on your fingers, you can reach easily 80,000 books. By the way, we have to mention also וגם Mr. Friedberg זכור לטוב, because he was the person who actually built this library, and the entire Jewish world owed him for this. Today, you have access to almost every single Jewish book, and they continue to publish more and more.
Rabbi Korobkin once told me, if not for Sefaria, which is what you're alluding to, correct?
And no, I talk about HebrewBooks.com. But Sefaria is another amazing. Sefaria is amazing in many ways, because it's fantastic for rabbis and teachers, because on top of the data of the Talmud, you have many lessons about the Talmud, many thoughts that people wrote from all denominations. It's amazing. You can find the most frum people on Sefaria, and you can find like Reform rabbis who wrote fascinating articles on Sefaria that you might disagree. But the beautiful is that they all based what they found on the Talmud, on the Mishnah, on the Mefarshim. This is the beauty of
Rabbi
the Jewish
Korobkin,
people.
as I said, he told me that his scholarship has been increased dramatically because of Sefaria. And I think your story was a beautiful story, because if you think 100 years ago in the Shtetl, somebody wanted to look up a halacha, a law that the Rambam has written about, doesn't mean he has the Rambam in the house. So he's got to traipse down that muddy road, if he's lucky, and find a Rambam, right? We don't have to do that anymore.
It's true and not true. And I'll tell you a story that happened to me and my doctor. One time I came to my doctor and I told him what I have. He said, "How do you know that you have this?" I said, "What do you mean?" Like, I went to Harvard Medical Center online, and they asked me question, and I diagnosed myself. He said, "This is very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, because you are not a doctor. It's very nice that they democratize, how to diagnose to all people, but at the end of the day, you need an expert." I'll tell you what is my concern. It's wonderful that we have so many sources, but the most important thing for a real learner is not to see what the books write about it. What do you think about it? And I'm afraid that this unbelievable abundance of books and information might dull the most important tool we have, and this is our brain asking questions, because it's all there, right? You don't have to work hard anymore. It's like what teachers today are so afraid of the ChatGPT, that it will take away the ability of writing. And there is something there. Why should you write if the machine can write sometimes better than you? And the same time, and the same might happen when you have too many books. And at the end of the day, it's about the analysis, about the application. It's about this fine skill that developed over years of learning, and no book can give you the answer.
Okay, in light of that, one of the things that we wanted to do in this interview today was to give people a sense of what the Talmud is all about. And you decided on a particular, what we call a sugya, a particular issue within the Talmud. And what we're going to do right now is we are going to, in a pretty simplistic way, we don't have a huge amount of time, we're going to break down that issue so that the neophyte can understand what Talmud is, man or woman. Very often I'll speak about Talmud because I do daf yomi, which means a page, both sides of a page in the Talmud a day. And I'll give as a Dvar Torah, and I'll include what I'm learning in the Gemara. And a lot of times people say, I've never learned Gemara, I don't understand it. And I think to myself, this is like the greatest gift that we as a people have. You know, I do certain classes with individuals who don't know very much about Torah or even our peoplehood. And I ask them, do you study Torah? And very often they say no. Oh, and so that is such a tragedy. Because if you want to be proud to be a Jew, It's very good, the rituals that we have outside of halacha, the things that we do in terms of unity of the Jewish people, dancing and singing folk songs and such things. It's beautiful. But if you don't
I
study the
agree.
Torah, you're missing the greatest gift of all. So I'm going to show something here, and it is a page in the Talmud. Unfortunately, I didn't copy it very well, and I apologize. This is in what's called, this is a Rabbi Steinsaltz Gemara, and essentially what he does is he takes the Aramaic on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, he translates it, which has been a huge benefit to me. Because it's covering up your face, Rabbi, and I don't want to do that. You're such a handsome man. What I'd like you to do is run with this now. Tell us about the Gemara that we'll be learning over the next few minutes, and then break it down for us.
Okay. So let's start not from the Gemara. I will give you a little introduction. Let's say that you live in a private home. You have driveway next to your home, and you went to Florida for 2 weeks. A person who usually park his car not far away from you, and he pays, let's say, $2 per hour. He knows that Avrum went to Florida, and he parked his car on your driveway. You came back from Florida, he meets you in shul or wherever, and he said, Avrum, I have to thank you for being in Florida. It helped me a lot. How? I parked my extra car instead on the street and paying $2 per hour. I parked it in your driveway. Let's say that you wouldn't be the nice person you are, and you say, wait a second, you know what? You say that for 2 weeks, you parked your car and you saved every day something around $20. You know what? I don't ask you to pay me $20 a day, but I think it will be nice if you compensate me like for $5. It will cover my Uber to the airport or something like this. Now, let me ask you the following questions. Do you think it's fair or not? And don't talk like a Canadian. I'm talking now legally. Do you think you have a case here to ask for money, and your friend, by the way, said, listen, Avrum, listen, you did not lose anything. You know, my car was on your driveway. It was just nice to be there. You did not lose anything. I shouldn't pay you anything. What do you say? You tell me what you think. Because that's exactly how I opened the learning with my students. I asked them this question. What do you think?
I mean, I think that there's two ways of looking at it. On one hand, he makes a point. You're using my property. Okay, we didn't talk about it before, but the truth of the matter is my property, and I could use the money, like you said, to use an Uber. So I would appreciate it very much if you would pay me for it. And then the flip side to it is we didn't talk about it. I lost nothing by you losing it. You gained. I should be happy about that. So no, you don't have to pay.
You know what? We just learned a
Oh, yeah.
Gemara now. Because I always like to approach the Gemara not with what we could start, you know, Rami Bar Chama said so and Rava said so. We are going to touch upon it in a second. But we actually learned Gemara now. We took a case and we can see it. You say it so beautifully, and many, many intelligent people who will approach this issue, they will say, whoa, that's a very interesting issue, because I never thought, why should I pay for things? Is it because my benefit? Or is it because the other guy lose? And here is the case that if in the middle, I benefit, certainly. You don't lose anything. Should I pay for it, yes or not? And this is a very philosophical question, because you touched with few words about the idea of ownership, like a huge legal issue. What does it mean to own a property? Can I squeeze every cent I can make out of it, or maybe it's something different? What exactly we pay for in our life? As I said before, is it for the benefit? Is it for the loss of someone else? And try to imagine that young people, they are 13, 14 years old, And they start to think about major issues that normally, like students in law school, we start explore when they are 19, 20. And this is something which is a very, to me, is very amazing in the Talmud. So first of all, there is a story like that developed, apparently, especially in their communities, about an empty house that was invaded by people. So I gave you the idea of a parking lot, because today no one is allowed to the home of someone else, obviously. But it was very common in the time of Talmud, like geo crisis happened. People left their houses. When they came back, they found someone in their house. It happened even in Jerusalem. Part of Baka was like an Arab property. Part of Sheikh Jarrah that we call is Shkunat Shimon HaTzadik. It happened in times of war that houses are left empty. Someone come inside, and the question is, when they come back, are they entitled for payment, yes or not? And this is a huge sugya, discourse in the Talmud that is called Ze Nehene Veze Lo Chaser. This one get benefit, the other one does not lose anything. Should the one who got benefit should pay for it, yes or not? It's a huge discourse going over a few blots of Talmud. So first of all, you have a question. Then you go through thinking, okay, what is the argument to this side? What is the argument to this side? Then you have to start bringing proofs. And here, something very, very interesting. Can we
let's keep going.
to discuss it? Okay. So here is one example for the Talmud. The Talmud bring the following case. I will make it short. There is a valley, and many people have different fields in the valley. One day, deers or rabbits, whatever the case is, are coming to the fields and they cause damage. The person on the north side of the field decided to build a fence. The person on the eastern side decided to build a fence. And the same with the western one and the southern one. Now, the person in the middle wake one morning and look at that. He had a fence around him, which benefit him. There will be no deers that will eat his field. And he did not spend a penny. His friends come to him and said, listen, Chaimke, we did you a great service. We built the fence around you. Let's say participate in it. And he said, I never asked for it. It's very nice that you build it. But you know what? You had to do it anyway for your own fields. The fact that I get benefit is nothing of your business. So exactly the 2 points that you presented before. And the Mishnah, it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah said that the guy in the middle has to pay. Now, regarding this question, before the whole discussion starts, we have two opinions. One of Rami Bar Chama, one of the Amoraim who lived about 1600 years ago, and his good friend Rava. Rava said he doesn't have to pay in a case that he got benefit but did not cause any loss. Of course, if he volunteer or send a thank you note, this will be very nice. But the court cannot force him to do it. That's a big issue. Is it forcible or not? And Rami Bar Chama said, no, he has to pay. You benefit, you have to pay something that will be agreeable upon all parties. Now, Rami Bar Chama said that he has to pay. He is very happy with this Mishnah that say that the guy in the middle has to pay, right? But what Rava is going to do with it, this is a very authoritative source that says that you do have to pay. And Rava, remember, said, no, this guy does not have to pay. And the question is, what is he going to do with this text, which is very authoritative? So listen to this. Very interesting. Says Rava, no, you misunderstand the interpretation of the story. Tell me, if the guy in the middle would not be there, what will be the parameter of the fields around, greater or smaller? If you have, let's say, 1,000 meters square, and it's going like 200 meters on one side and 50 meters on one side. If it's one person, it will have a parameter of 140 meters. But if a person is in the middle, in order to have the same size of 1,000 meter squares, the parameter is going to be bigger.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
the guy in the middle, it might be like 180, 200 meters. So it's not the case anymore of one get benefit and then the other one does not lose anything. No, one get benefit, and as a result, the other guy has to buy more fence to around his fields. So don't tell me, Rami Bar Chama, that this is a case that we are talking about. This is not a case of a house when the owner did not lose anything. Here, the builder of the fence is actually spending more money. And in this situation, everyone should agree that you do have to pay. So what do we see here? We see that, first of all, you cannot say anything without bringing a proof. And the Gemara tried to bring a proof. And I tell my students, you know what? Remember this, because people will tell you all kinds of things. Where is your proof? If you don't have a proof, don't believe anything. Number one. Number two, after a person bring a proof, please reread it. See if the example that they bring is exactly accurate, is exactly as the case that we discuss. Because sometimes these little differences make a huge difference. And try to understand what the other guy think. So it's not by chance that many of my students, for example, they come to Talmud classes because they see it as a good preparation for law school, and they are absolutely right. I'm not saying that this is a reason to learn Talmud, but it does sharpen their thinking and their ability to see so many things, sometimes in few lines. You learn like about a world of thinking, of argument, of refuting an argument. And to me, it's the most noble and most amazing subject that people can learn in their high school. So I try to make it a memorable experience.
You know, Rabbi Steinsaltz, in a wonderful book that he wrote about the Talmud, it's called The Essential Talmud. And one of my favorite books. I've read it and reread it. It's wonderful.
Fantastic.
He says that in every village and every town where there was not Talmud study, that eventually that village and that town dissipated and went away. In other words, without Talmud study, you can't maintain the Jewish soul. You can't keep up the Jewish community. Well, why is that, Rabbi?
Why is that? Because Jewish life requires many times, on one hand, to know what is the law, but more important is to know how to apply the law. And for this, you need fantastic analysis skills, because if you go just according to the book and you don't pay attention to the little differences, to certain situations that might not be applied here, you are going to end up in a very bad way, because you cannot learn. You know what? I don't know if you ever tried to learn to play golf,
so much.
for example. Many people our age, not mine too. But, once I was invited with someone, so I decided to learn golf from a YouTube video. When I came to the field, it was like, what? Like, it's completely different experience. You cannot learn how to play golf from a video. You need someone to show you how to swing, how to approach the ball, where to approach the ball. It's a whole Torah. So think about like life themselves, not a golf game. Lives themselves. You have so many issues in the family, between people, about money, about education, about how to keep Shabbos. When can I break the laws of Shabbos? When not? For all of this, you need fantastic skills of a researcher, of a person who can look deep into the core of the issue, the crux of the issue. Because if you are going to apply like that, you are not allowed to be Mechalel Shabbos in certain situation, for example, you will kill many people because one case is not like the other one. And you have to learn what is it here. This is not a regular like headache. This is something that might be, for a doctor. He will tell you, this is not a regular headache. This is something different. And the rabbi, the skilled rabbi, the skilled Rosh Yeshiva, the learned one, he will know, because he learned Talmud, how things sometimes are very, very different from each other. And why in certain situations you have to apply the law in a different way that is in the book. So the Talmud, and by the way, Talmud was sealed in the 5th century, but the Talmud is actually going on because in every generation until this very day, the interpretation of the Talmud is still continuing. And you see rabbis are fighting about what is the explanation here, what the explanation there, and they all stick to the same text. That's the most amazing thing about the Talmud. You have enough room in the text itself for different interpretations. So indeed, the Talmud shaped us as a nation much more than the Torah itself, because it's clear-cut things in the Torah. The Talmud help everyone to understand the core of things. And that's why I believe that many Jews became like great doctors and great lawyers and great inventors, because I think we carry it in our DNA, this research, this like fine-tuning of a text, analyzing a text in a different way. And therefore, I do believe the Talmud is for everyone.
Rabbi, I think your answer was a great answer, but I want to take it a little bit further. I think Rabbi Steinsaltz was saying too was, yes, Talmud has enforced and reinforced our character as a nation or as a village, as a town. It's maintained us that way. We've had to think about things. We've had to work things through. There's so many tributaries that come out of the learning of Talmud. But I think what he was saying also was that it maintained us as a people. It helped us survive externally. And that I'm curious, how would Talmud do that?
I would say that you build a community around learning, a community of scholars, a community where the scholar is admired. It's a different community than the regular community. And in the Jewish community, like the admiration to people who bear this knowledge. But I have to tell you, the greatest admiration is, I remember the yeshiva bocher is to the Rosh Yeshiva, it's not to the rabbi. Because the Rosh Yeshiva shows sometimes in the text depth that you never see. And you want to imitate it. You want also to read the text differently, to see behind the text, what every word means, why these words are coming together. And I do believe that it created a community that maybe was poor in resources, but they had a huge advantage on all society around them in terms of education, of thinking, of looking about things in a different way. And therefore, communities that could not maintain this quality, as you say, disappeared. Because you cannot keep yourself high, with a head high, if you don't show that you are better than others. You don't have this pride. And the places where you had like strong yeshivot, strong rabbis who learn Talmud, you created a new community of scholars, community which is connected to Torah, and everyone was educated to appreciate it. And I think this built a different community. Listen, you go to cities in America, don't you think that the people in Boston are slightly different than the people in Chicago? And I don't want to take anything from but you can see, like, let's say 1 out of 2 people in Boston is teaching in MIT or in Harvard or here or there. It's a different caliber.
Yeah. Rabbi, are you familiar with the Fugu Plan?
What is it?
The Fugu Plan, it's a book, actually, but it was a plan by the Manchurians, by the Chinese, to bring Jews into Manchuria. And their thinking was as follows. Their thinking was, look at the Jewish people. This is the point that I was trying to get at. That wherever they go, It's built up. We need to build up Manchuria. So let's bring the Jewish people into Manchuria. They'll build it up. It'll become prosperous. It'll become wealthy. Everybody would be happy. The Beis Shammai in that argument, the flip side said, yeah, not good. What's going to happen is the Jews going to come in there. Yeah, they're going to build up Manchuria, and then they're going to take it over.
I remember it from the beginning of Exodus. That's exactly what the fear of Paro. Remember, the Jews actually built Egypt, and that one day, like Paro looks from his window and he said they took Mitzrayim over.
Yes.
So, this is a very old story.
Hava nischak malo. We better we deal wisely with them, right? So the Manchurians scrapped the idea. The Chinese scrapped the idea. So what I'm saying is I think the non-Jew sees what we have developed, and much of what we have developed is because of our Talmudic cup, our way of thinking. Would that be accurate?
It will be completely accurate, I can tell you. And if you can Google it, you will see that people like high-rank people from South Korea came to Israel, and they came to visit like Ponovich Yeshiva.
Yeah.
They did not come to learn Talmud, but they understood that apparently something in the Talmud is actually might be helping growing this great mind. And I don't think that they were wrong.
Yeah, no, that's that whole sugya there, that whole thing with the South Koreans is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal because they're trying to emulate us, right?
And that's how it's supposed to be. I will repeat what I told you before. It's so sad that instead of just taking the good thing that the Jewish people brought to the world, like these very good things are turning around in a terrible way. And what can I tell you? It's this is a goyish kop. Instead of understanding how much bracha we could bring to the world, they turn it around us, against us, which is very, very sad. I want to tell you one thing. We talked in the beginning about students. In Orchaim and in chat, we have talent shows. And I go to these talent shows. I love to see them. And you know what? Every time after the talent show, I start to cry. I'm not too emotional, but I start crying. Why? I said, here is a room with 100 students. One is a fantastic magician. One is fantastic gymnast. One is fantastic poem writer. Can you imagine? This is 100 people, and 20 of them are like unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
Think about 6 million people. What happened there?
Yeah.
How much bracha, like the world lost here? How much bracha we could bring to the world? And every time I just thinking about it really makes me cry. Literally.
Yeah, I often think that way as well. Rabbi, we're going to make a segue here between the Talmud and nice job on teaching Talmud. I enjoyed it very much. I should tell our listeners, our viewers, that on April the 7th, Rabbi Shlomo Gemara and Rabbi Daniel Korobkin are going to come together once again and teach a sugya, an issue within the Talmud together. And we'll see how that goes. I think that'll be very beautiful.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be on the side of Rabbi Korobkin.
A very special man. Beautiful man.
Okay.
So, but I want to make a segue now between the Talmud and Agnon. And last time I asked you, I said, because of your Talmudic background, your studying of the Gemara, the analytical aspect of it, does that somehow impact upon your learning of Shai Agnon? Now, Shai Agnon was one of the greatest writers ever. Rabbi Gemara here on my show, he said, I actually think, this is what he said. He goes, I actually think that Agnon was a better writer than Shakespeare.
Yep.
You have no much source I got from that, Rabbi.
In many, many ways, yes. However, we have to remember that I'll tell you what is the broch, so to speak, that happened to Agnon. Shakespeare was a genius in the psychology of the human being. No questions about this one. I don't think that any writer managed to see like the little thing, the fantastic surgeon of the human soul. No questions about this one. And he was very lucky because he wrote to the entire world. Like 7 billion people can read, and it will like resonate with them. It will touch a core in their heart. because every human being had these issues of fame and family issues and all
Love lost,
which is like the human experience.
yes.
Agnon wrote about all of this, much more deeper, much more philosophy into it, and he wrote it to a nation of 15 million people, where I would say today many few thousands can really understand the little nuances in his writing. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. Like such a genius mind. And as I said before, if you are not going to learn Hebrew, you will never understand Agnon. That's the tragedy of it. So it cannot be even translated. Even the best translation will never bring Agnon to the average person unless he's like fluent in Hebrew.
Rabbi, a few weeks ago, we had a class which you led, and that had to do with an Agnon story called B'Sha'achat, right? Which would be translated as what, accurately?
B'Sha'achat supposed to be like in 1 hour.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, that's the English, like Sha'a is an hour, Achat is like 1 hour. Now, for the regular person, you would expect that something happened like in 1 hour, which is very, very true. But just hearing the word B'Sha'achat brings into mind a whole story from the Talmud, which is an amazing story. You want to hear the story?
Yeah, please.
The story is about a person, Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion, a great sage in the time of the Romans, who decided to teach Torah against the decree of the Romans. He was caught and was sent to a very cruel death by building fire and to burn him alive. To make long story short, seconds before he's executed, he had a discussion with the executioner, the person who executed him.
The executioner.
Executioner, thank you. And he was so taken by this discussion that he decided to change his life. And when he burned Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion, he threw himself into the fire because he wanted to be part of this amazing Kiddush Hashem.
Kiddush Hashem is what?
Kiddush Hashem means like sanctify the name of God. Like okay. This was like a person devoted all his life to Torah, and now he dies for it, for the fact that he was teaching Torah, and he felt in a little moment like such a transformation that he decided to kind of convert and to join this magnificent event of being killed on Kiddush Hashem, being a sacrifice for Kiddush Hashem. And when another sage, I think it was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the writer of the Mishnah, heard about it, he said, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'a achat. There is people that 1 hour can change their life, and they acquire the olam haba that usually people work for years and years to acquire. They acquire it in seconds. So when Agnon called it b'sha'a achat, he wants the learned reader to remember this story. That how sometimes things can take years, but for a smart person or for in a moment of opportunity, you can acquire so much in a very short time. So the truth is that no translation will manage to bring you this kind of layers upon layers, history, philosophy with 2 words. No Shakespeare, no Tolstoy, no Dostoevsky, Thomas Mann, you take them all. No one will manage in 2 words, the title of the story, to bring you such a wealth of connection to your history, to another story. That's why I think that Agnon is the greatest of all. Absolutely.
Beautiful. I love that. So break down the story for us a little bit.
So the story that you were part of the shiur, right? You were talking about this one, is a very simple story. Actually, a very unusual story, because the stories of Agnon many times are like roller coasters, like they go up and down, and another crisis, and you overcome it. This is a very simple story. There is a yeshiva guy, 15 years old. His mother is dying that he will get married, because this was apparently the common age for young people in Galicia to get married in the 17th century or 18th century. Listen, we have to remember that life were very short then. No antibiotic, no surgeries. Today, Baruch Hashem, we live a long life thanks to the modern health system. In their time, it was very common that people ended their life very young, and therefore the cycle of life had to start right on the beginning. They did not have the luxury of learning in university until you are 25 or 30, and then to get married. So she wants him to get married. And one day, it happened on Tu B'Av, which is a special day on the Jewish calendar. And by the way, it gives me the pleasure to remind every one of us that today is also a very a Jewish date on the Jewish calendar. It's a yortzeit of no other than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu passed away on Zayin Be'adar, which is today. Next week we are going to have Purim. Anyway, Tu B'Av is a very happy day, destined for marriage and shidduchim. And it happened that he goes to another city for his father's business. And when they come back, they hear in the shul like crying, terrible crying. What happened? There was a young kala that was supposed to get married. She's dressed like a kala, like a bride, and she's crying and crying, and everyone is screaming. What happened? She was supposed to get married to an older person. It was very common, unfortunately, for girls who came from very poor families to get married with someone that will ensure their, physical survival. And because the father of her was a tzaddik, he was a righteous person, but, like many other righteous people, he did not have money in the pocket. He could not give all the dowry at once, and the groom disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then the father said to his son, you have an opportunity here. Maybe you marry her. Okay, we planned for a wedding like for months, and here the father said to him, my dear son, maybe you take the opportunity. And the son looks at her and said, Abba, yes. And the rabbi, the great rabbi of the town, who did not came for the first wedding, comes out. He married them. The mother joined later. She did not know why the entire city is so happy. When she came to the chuppah, she realized who is under the chuppah, her beloved son. And of course, the story ends with that they had a wonderful family, and they lived happily until the Nazis killed them all. And he called the story B'Sha'ah Achat, like he seized the opportunity that happened here, and he made a quick decision to marry the girl. Now, there is nothing like so extraordinary in the story. I mean, this is extraordinary because no one will understand it today. Like what? Like to go to meet a girl and to make a chuppah that was already there, But the interesting thing is that this girl is kala of a blind woman. She's a descendant. She's, I think, a grandchild or great-grandchild of a lady by the name Rachel Leah. And she was a blind person, but she made many marriages. She made many shidduchim and so on.
Matches.
Yeah. And the truth, Agnon say that the mother of the Chatan always wanted to get married with this family, although they did not have money or anything like this. But she felt that the real virtue of the Jewish people is kindness, and she always wanted to be part of this family. And here, like God orchestrated it in a way that her son actually married the granddaughter by chance, by fluke, right? Now, Agnon give this lady a name, Rachel Leah, for a good reason. What the name Rachel Leah reminds you, Avrum?
Yaakov's wives.
Exactly. But more than that, remember that there was like you have to remember that this was like a story of matches, of shidduchim. Remember, Yaakov wanted to marry Rachel right away. Things got complicated, and eventually he married Leah. But there is another level here. How it happened between me and you, like how it happened that a person loves one wife, he wakes up in the morning and he realized that he married a completely another one. How is that possible? So, first of all, I want to say that the Torah itself actually say that Lavan, the father of Rachel and Leah, made a big party. I can imagine like how much whiskey and schnapps were there. So I believe that the Torah put this detail to tell us, be very careful, especially on the wedding night, not to drink too much, because you don't want to wake up and to find Leah instead of Rachel next to you. That's the Torah. But Chachamim, our sages, say something quite amazing. That the Torah say that the eyes of Leah were rakot. We don't know exactly what that means. It's like open to many interpretations. Some say they were beautiful. Some say no, she was crying so much because she was supposed to get married to Esau. Remember, Esau was the older, Yaakov was the younger, and like everyone said, Esau is going to get Leah, and Jacob is going to get Rachel.
Yes.
And Leah was crying. Now, think about the story here. Like this lady was supposed to get married to a wicked person who left their wedding just because her father did not give enough money, and eventually she married someone else. This is exactly the story of Leah. She all her life just was worrying that she will get someone who is bad, is wicked, and eventually got there and the things around, and she married Jacob like a wonderful person. Yes, it brought more issues. And Agnon called this lady that is dealing with shidduchim, and I would say matches which are not always so simple. It's not like today you go to JDate and all kind of sites. This was like a pre-arranged marriage, and you needed to be sometimes a blind person so the marriage is going to be successful, because sometimes your eyes are going to trick you to marry the wrong person. So Agnon built all this in a beautiful way, but he made like a nowadays story or Galicia story modeled by the old stories of the Torah. And by this, he's doing something quite amazing. He tells you that the stories of the Torah did not happen 4,000 years ago. They happened every day. If you understand the principle behind the story, you are going to see that tonight we are going to have wedding that might be modeled after Rachel and Leah. All the problems, all the futures problems, all the happiness, it's all there in the story. And I think by this, Agnon opened our eyes to see the Torah as a living text. Chayei olam nata betochenu, we say on the bracha of the Torah. He gave us like a treasure of chayei olam, of life forever. And Agnon, I think, bring this aspect of Chayei Olam into the Jewish literature.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. He wrote many, many stories. He wrote many, many books. And people around the world are fascinated by him. Excuse me. And I think it's safe to say, because if you're fascinated by Jewish thought, then you are going to ensconce yourself in the mind of Agnon and the words of Agnon, which is what you've done, right?
I try, and trust me, every time that I read it again, it's also like the Gemara. I find like a new layer, a new thing, a new twist that he, many times that when I read Agnon, I find myself like talking to him. I know that you put here a candy. I just don't understand fully what it is. And I read it again and again, and I say, oh my, I got it. So,
Rabbi, are you still giving a class on it?
I'm going to give another class. I can't remember at this point, but I'll send you the link. B'ezrat Hashem. You honored us by being on the shiur, and I will be more than happy to have more people on the shiur.
By the way, I find it very interesting that you call it a shiur, I know that a shiur can be a class, but generally it's thought of as a Talmud class, no?
To me, it's a shiur. It's not. I really try to learn it. I try to learn it, and you know what? I tell my students, and I think it's a very important issue. Like a real Talmudist, read everything different. Even the newspaper of this morning, you will read it different. And when he will read like a report of a company, he will read it different. He will ask the right question, and he will get much more information than a person who didn't learn how to read text. And the Talmud is just fantastic exercise, how to read texts. Don't accept anything in face value. Ask the right question. Ask who told you that. What are the alternative ways to analyze it?
Beautiful, yeah. You bring it to life for me, Rabbi, and I know you do for so many others. So thank you for that. I appreciate it a lot. In conclusion, just a quick question. It's Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses Yortzeit today. Do you do anything on Moses Yortzeit?
I was honored by Shomer Shabbos Shul to give a shiur, another shiur. It's going to be different than our discussion and the shiur of Agnon to the Chevra Kadisha. There is a beautiful minhag that Chevra Kadisha in every city they fast on the.
What is that? What is a Chevra Kadisha?
Chevra Kadisha are the burial society of the Jewish people that because who buried Moshe Rabbeinu? It was Hashem himself. And the people, the holy people of Chevra Kadisha that does this to every person, actually, everyone alive one day is not. And they take upon themselves dealing with the body in a dignified way, dealing with the family in the most difficult moment. These are holy people. You know what? I'm a Kohen. I cannot be in Chevra Kadisha because Kohanim are not allowed. But I have a great, great admiration, and I'm so thankful to Rabbi Felder from Shomer Shabbat that invited me to give a shiur today to the Chevra Kadisha. So after the fast, because they fast all day long, which is interesting, right? Not only that they have to deal with unpleasant tasks, they once a year they take upon themselves another day of fast, and they have a meal at the end of the fast, and I was invited to speak there. So I'm very honored to do that, to give another shiur about Moshe. By myself, you know what? Again, it's a very important yortzeit, and maybe for next year I'll think about maybe like lighting a candle or something. Is Moshe Rabbeinu is our Rebbe, and by the way, interesting thing, I was very privileged to learn in a very famous yeshiva, KBY, where I did my army and the Torah study. And my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Goldwicht, his yortzeit is today on Zayin Be'adar.
Today, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I love, by the way, the eulogy. Not only did God bury Moses, but he also eulogized him, and he said his eyes never dimmed.
Yeah.
Never will there be another prophet. Never will be another leader like Moshe Rabbeinu. Just to help me conclude the show here, because I could go on forever. What's your take on that? Never his eyes had dimmed.
I think it comes to teach us that there was no lack of physical leadership by Moshe Rabbeinu. Some people, they have to retire. This sad story about owners of company that they retire a year too late. But it was not the case with Moshe Rabbeinu. His retirement, so to speak, to I would say immortality. It's like we still talk about Moshe Rabbeinu like I never saw him. My father never saw him, but he's Moshe Rabbeinu to all the Jewish people, right? I would say that the influence of Moshe Rabbeinu is still felt for all Jewish people. And the day of Zayin Be'adar is, I think, a very remarkable day where two things happened. On one hand, he passed away. On the other hand, he enabled us actually to create the Talmud, because there was no Moshe Rabbeinu anymore to ask him questions. You had to figure out what is the answer to your questions. And Moshe Rabbeinu, by his passing away, created a movement that exists until this very day. We don't have Moshe Rabbeinu to ask him questions. We have to figure it out by ourselves.
Excellent. I also might add to that. You know, Rabbi, when you meet somebody, regardless of their age, sometimes they're 95, and they have this illumination in their eyes. They never got young. They never got old. My mother was like that.
נכון?
My dear friend Rhoda, who is at 93, I believe she is. She's always in a state of awe of the world. It's a Rahmanis. It's sad when you meet people who, unfortunately, because life can be very difficult or they forgot their dreams, that their eyes become dark, right?
That's a beautiful insight that takes us also to the eyes of Leah. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you can see a person, you can look into his eyes, you know everything about him.
It's the window to the soul.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. It's like a late night schmooze here. And I enjoyed my discussion so much with Rabbi Shlomo Gemara, who, as always, did a magnificent job. I enjoy listening to you. And I know that my viewers are going to feel the same. So, Rabbi, thank you so much for this. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Avrum. Again, I'm still surprised that you invited me, and this is the second time, but it's a pleasure to talk to you.
And it's the last time. No, not really. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to know more about the show, I have a YouTube channel. It's called the Avrum Rosensweig Show, and you can go there and you can see our past interviews. You can also go to my website at avrumrosensweig.com. And if you have any questions for me, you can find me on Facebook and many, many other social media outlets. We're going to be back next week. We're most excited about it. The show is going really well, and we really, really appreciate your help. When you go to YouTube, please subscribe to the show. That helps me a lot, and it'll ensure that we'll be able to continue this for a long time coming. So, to Moshe Rabbeinu should rest in peace. Thank you so much for your beautiful leadership. The fellow in Gaza who's having his birthday today, his name is what, Rabbi?
Shlomo, that's what it caught my eye. Shlomo Mansour, 86 years old, and eat ice cream.
Yeah, eat ice cream, exactly. And it doesn't have to be the type of ice cream the Rabbi. Any ice cream is fine. And God bless everybody. Have a beautiful week. There should be peace in Israel. Am Yisrael Al Chai, and we will see you soon. Thank you.